Here's what I know is true. Most weight loss plans are one size fits all. So frustrating. They don't take into account each person's individual needs, which could mean dietary restrictions, medical issues, or other personal needs. That's why you're going to love Noom. It's built for your psychology and your biology, meeting you where you are. Noom's personalized programs feel more sustainable than any other, more restrictive weight loss programs. And also, it doesn't shame you when you choose to treat yourself, and that's important. I like this company because it's got a psychology and biology-based approach and a super easy app to use with lots of great features, including daily lessons, coaching, and flexibility. I think it's your time to start. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com. Based on 3.5-year study of actively engaged Noom users with minimum BMI of 25. Individual results may vary. Visit Noom.com for more information. Okay, you want to look luxurious but not spend a lot of money? I got you covered. With Quince, you're going to treat yourself to everyday luxury at an affordable price. Something everyone needs in their closet, in my opinion. Quince's iconic Mongolian cashmere sweaters, guess what? They start at $50. Or if you really want to up your luxe factor, check out their Italian leather bags, washable silk skirts, and European linen sheet sets. Whatever you're looking for, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. It's because they partner directly with top factories and cut the costs of the middleman, passing the savings on to you. And also they work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And of course, they use premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel. You guys need to go get yourself the bodysuits. That's my new obsession. Look great with jeans or a skirt. Treat yourself this winter without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/KateCasey for 365-day returns, plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/KateCasey to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/KateCasey.
The amazing Kate Casey.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey, and I've got a great episode for you. But first, I wanted to note that this past January 5th, Mike Rinder, a former guest of mine, passed away after a lengthy battle with cancer. Mike had been a lifelong Scientologist who broke away from the organization and then became one of its biggest detractors. He was born in Australia and grew up in the Church of Scientology International, the often controversial organization created by science fiction writer L. Ron Hubbard when he sought to create a new religion. His parents had joined the church when he was 5, and by the time he was a teenager, he was a member of the Sea Org, a high-ranking branch of the group. He rose to executive director of the church's Office of Special Affairs and served as the chief spokesman for CSI, serving over 2 decades. He had been sent to the Hole, a California compound where organization members are allegedly confined as punishment for misdeeds. So in 2007, they sent him to England to try to prevent the release of a documentary film called Scientology and Me, but he failed to do so. So he was sent to dig ditches there as punishment, but he ended up leaving the organization entirely. So once the key spokesman and then Scientology's biggest critic. Mike and fellow former Scientologist actress Leah Remini created a docuseries called Leah Remini, Scientology and the Aftermath. In 2019, they were given the Barbara Blaine Trailblazer Award by Child USA for their actions. And in 2020, they won an Emmy Award for Outstanding Hosted Nonfiction Series or Special. In 2022, he wrote A Billion Years, My Escape from the Life in the highest ranks of Scientology. And he also co-founded the Aftermath Foundation to help others leave the organization. He has said, the absolute conviction that what you are doing is right and just and saving mankind provides enormous strength to persist and overcome incredible odds. It's almost a superpower. In November of 2022, I interviewed Mike about his book and the A&E show, and it remains one of my favorite episodes. You can listen to it in episode number 570. I took great pride in the way he complimented me on understanding his experiences. But what you should know is that Mike and I kept in touch, and when I needed a guest, he would often go out of his way to make the connection for me. He was brilliant and so kind, and I'm very lucky I got a chance to know him and will forever treasure our conversation and connection. In this episode, Landon Bryant helps me review Jerry Springer Fights Camera Action. This is a Netflix docuseries which explores how the daytime talk show became one of the biggest and most outrageous TV hits of the 90s, but also the destruction it caused, raising renewed questions about who was responsible and how far things should go in the name of entertainment. The show was taped in Chicago, ran for 27 seasons from 1991 to 2018, in which it broadcast nearly 4,000 episodes. So here is my interview with Landon. Landon, I brought you here to talk about a little old show called The Jerry Springer Show. Did you ever watch that show?
I occasionally snuck watched it, but it was definitely banned in my house for sure.
Oh,
but
it was?
I don't think you can be alive during that time period and not have been impacted by the Jerry Springer Show, at least culturally, So I don't think I've watched a full episode, but I've definitely watched parts of the Jerry Springer Show at some point.
Now at school, would kids talk about it and then they do the Jerry?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And this kind of the same relationship I have with professional wrestling or WWE is the same wrestling to Jerry Springer. What I know about this is through proxy, kids talking about it and being Stone Cold Steve Austin or whatever, or whatever their names were. That's how I absorbed it.
Well, did you kind of fake it till you make it? That was
Very
kind of
much.
that was kind of like me when kids would talk about sex and I didn't know all the different things with it. I would just play it off I knew what they were talking about. Same thing with you with Jerry Springer?
Same thing, exactly the same thing. And with a lot of things like Titanic, even me and my wife both lied to each other about what we thought Titanic was. I was have you seen it? And she was yeah. And I was so have I. And then we concocted the story together and neither of us had seen it. So that was my vibe back then.
Yeah. But did you end up seeing it?
Oh, of course, yes. And then I'm a professional Titanic watcher in that I would watch the first VHS and then not the second one. And then they just made it and everything was fine if you just watched the first one.
Okay, so Jerry Springer, this show, this Netflix documentary goes behind the scenes of America's most controversial talk show to expose its biggest scandals both on and off the camera. Now, this was in the heyday of the talk show, the 90s talk shows. And my friend Dominic Pupa worked on Ricky Lake and Sally Jesse Raphael. And this was really when you'd stay at home and you would watch the most bonkers personal stories erupt on stage. And what I like about this series is we get to the heart of how the show was made, how it operated, and what was really going on behind the scenes. So the first thing I found surprising was that before his rise to national stardom, that Jerry Springer had actually served as Cincinnati, Ohio's mayor in 1977 and 1978. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The whole mayor. He was a mayor of Cincinnati, not just a small city, a whole city. Wild. I know. I did not know that about Jerry Springer, but it actually kind of makes sense. His
I know
vibe
it does. Yeah.
is sort of mayoral.
So the show really, he had wanted it to be about politics, but enter in this producer by the name of Richard Dominic because he was responsible for the success of the show. When he joined in production in 1994, he wanted to turn the show upside down, and Lord knows he did. He said,
did.
There's no line to draw. Of course, it's notable that he was a former reporter for The Sun in Britain. He said, if I could kill someone on TV, if I could execute them on TV, I would execute them on TV. So
and he literally said that, you can see him say it. It wasn't a quote in a newspaper. He watched him say those words.
So, yeah, I can imagine back then, let's do a show about politics. And everyone was like, that's a real snooze fest. Let's bring in someone who may or may not have slept with her brother-in-law.
They sure did. They brought them all right in, all of them. That guy was diabolical, Richard Dominic, just diabolical. I loved how the documentary did this, and I know they did it on purpose. Everybody would be talking about how awful the thing was that they had just done, or how intense it was, or how crazy it was, a sister and a brother. And he was it was great TV.
He was it was marvelous.
Everyone in his comments would be it was so good.
Now, this was surprising to me. The process of getting the guest. And of course, there was call-in, so you could call in. And Dominic, my friend, used to take a lot of those calls. But for the Jerry Springer show, they said that there was what they called a triangle that you can draw from Tennessee to Ohio to Georgia. So it was like the Bermuda Triangle. They called it the Springer Triangle, where 75% of all guests in the history of the show came from that region of the country. Now, they interviewed the former longtime producer of the show, and they said These are small town folk, and you're really trying to sell it to them like they've got a great story. So, do you know anybody from Tennessee to Ohio to Georgia within the Springer Triangle who may or may not have ever appeared as an audience member or a guest on the Jerry Springer Show?
I don't know anybody, but I'm proud to report that I am not in the triangle. Mississippi did not make the triangle.
It did not.
I saw that. When I saw the triangle, I was like, yes. We don't make mini lists, but that was one I was like glad to not make. But probably, I'm sure there's plenty of stories here. I think maybe they just like had enough content over there. They didn't make it all the way down here. But yeah, all those people from small towns, they were definitely taking advantage of them for so sure.
Yeah. I am surprised I've never known anybody that was in the audience or... you know what? I bet you someone's going to reach out to me and go, dum, I told you that I was in that one audience, that one episode. But I don't know anybody who actually appeared on the show. So
I don't, and I think I'm proud of that. Like, I think that's like a good
maybe that is
accomplishment.
A good thing. Yeah. Okay. Another thing, Jerry said that he lost himself in the hunt for ratings. Now, he projected an image of a very kind of like sweet married guy. And I did see him at the pool at the Coronado Hotel in San Diego a couple years before he died. And I will take that photo out and bring it out of the archives. He was very attentive of his wife and just seemed like a sweet grandpa. However, was not aware that apparently he had been having sex with guests. Was that a shock to you too?
I did not know that. But I had not separated Jerry Springer the man from Jerry Springer the show concept. So I kind of like, while I did not know that, I wasn't like surprised. But the more like we got
tracks.
Like that tracks, right? But actually, the more you get to know him through the documentary, it doesn't track sort of with the image he gave off. Like he was a little more serious. It was a little less, like I felt like he was like a little bit above it in a way. He obviously wasn't above it, but he seemed a little bit removed from the trashness of it. So that was surprising.
My new goal this year is hydration. My days get so busy, it's actually the one thing that I always forget to do. And I love Liquid IV. It is powered by Hydroscience, and it helps you break the mold. They've got great flavors, like my personal favorite, the Pina Colada. Think about how much you are working out. Are you refueling? How much did you actually drink to rehydrate? Liquid IV is leading the way in flavor innovation. They've got a ton of great flavors, including the sugar-free flavors like raspberry lemonade, white peach, and rainbow sherbet. You can break the mold and own your own ritual. Just one stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, and always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. Embrace your ritual with extraordinary hydration from Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code KateCasey at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today by using promo code KateCasey at liquidiv.com. This episode is sponsored by Acorns. Acorns makes it easy to start automatically saving and investing so your money has the chance to grow for you, your kids, and your retirement. You don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you invest with the spare money you've got right now. You can start with $5 or even just your spare change, and you don't need to be an expert. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that fits you and your money goals. Head to acorns.com/KKC or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. Paid non-client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 1 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors LLC and SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/KKC. Although he did also serve as mayor. And I do feel like in the history of politics, about 80% of mayors may or may not have slept with someone who was on a television show.
I think you could be like a fact, write that down as a fact, 80%.
Yes. Now, one of the worst episodes in the history of that show had to do with a horse. It was called I Married a Horse. Now, one early morning, a producer took a call from Mark Matthews for what would later be banned on TV. I Married a Horse. Matthews called in and said he had left his wife and 2 daughters for a Shetland pony. He then appeared on the show with his horse, becoming one of Springer's most shocking episodes because during that episode in 1998, he and his horse French kissed on stage.
They were making out right there in front of God and everybody, like just full tongue.
It's so weird. Now,
it was so strange.
Several stations that carried the show, including his former station in Cincinnati, refused to air the episode, and with good reason. Looking back in time, how did that even make it to air in any way?
I have no idea. It was obviously the Wild West of talk shows, because that's a crazy concept. That really is a crazy concept. They did talk about how there was so much stress on the producers and how they had to do so many episodes a year. It was so many. So maybe we just were too busy to pay attention to ourselves a little bit, got carried away. I don't know. But that's wild, really wild. They brought the horse. The horse was there on the stage. It wasn't a video of him and his horse. It was the horse on the stage with him.
I mean, if you have to kiss a horse, you need to take a long look in the mirror and ask yourself where it all went wrong.
And it sort of is, it's kind of like intervention, at some point we realized maybe the documentary is about us, and it seemed like all the guests on Jerry Springer were somehow surprised that they were made to be maybe not the best looking. And we were surprised every time. And that man seemed like he was very valid in making out with that horse. He didn't seem apologetic or he should be ashamed.
No, but he's probably the same person who hangs out with the guy at the bar who made out with the dolphin. It's probably the same kind of person.
Yeah.
Now, in the history of time, there were several episodes that I thought were notable. And I just wanted to run through some of them and see if you had either watched this episode, heard about this episode, or know somebody with a similar life situation. For example, Zach, the 70-pound baby. Zach made his debut at 18 months and became a sensation because he was 70 pounds at the time. Have you ever known someone to have a 70-pound toddler?
I hate that I had to even pause for just a second. I don't think I've known a 70-pound toddler, but I've known some close to 70-pound toddlers. What's a toddler? What's our definition of toddler?
I'm going to go with 18 months to 4.5.
Oh, yeah. Then I know some 70-pound toddlers, yes.
Well, I was also going to say, quite honestly, once you have a baby move through your lady pocket, it all really kind of feels like 70 pounds.
It's all too many pounds, and they will never leave you alone. So
yeah, exactly. Okay, but this one, married to your dad, but I want you back. A woman shared that she had married a man, moved in with his dad, and then fell in love with him. Have you known anybody in the state of Mississippi or surrounding areas where this may have happened?
That's got to have happened. If I don't know anybody specifically, that's got to have happened. At least a stepdad in some, it's got to be some way that's had to have happened. I'm going to say I can't rule that out. I don't know any specifics, but I'm sure that has happened within 30 miles of me.
Now, this was the most hated Springer guest of all time. This man named James admitted he impregnated his very young girlfriend so he would live off of her rent-free. I feel like this probably happens in most communities and most states in this country.
I'd say there's a lot of people alive because of that very philosophy,
Right.
I'd say there's a lot of those.
James was 32 and he was dating an 18-year-old. Unfortunately, I think that's probably not that unusual.
Mm-hmm. Probably not that unusual. Very predator-like. That's what a predator would do. That lines up with that behavior.
You slept with my stripper sister was an episode. We met a woman who admitted her stripper sister sleeps with all of her boyfriends.
Well, that's sort of the plot of the musical Chicago. So
there you go. Not that unusual. A lot of episodes about breaking sex records. I kind of feel like this is probably the precursor to OnlyFans. This stuff probably wouldn't shock us as much now. You know
what? You're so right. That is exactly where that went. We went from Jerry Springer to OnlyFans. That's how
Yeah. This one was called I Cut Off My Manhood. In 1997, guest Earl Z appeared to discuss his decision to cut off his own male organ with a pair of garden shears.
And he did do that?
That's what he said.
My God. Wow.
Yeah. What, you never know.
It's going to leave a mark, and you never know what will get into people's heads.
Well, remember Lorena Bobbitt? She chopped off John Bobbitt's situation. So those are the times.
That was more of a revenge situation, less of a doing it to yourself situation. That's
correct. That's
wild.
True.
Wild.
And garden shears, nonetheless. I mean, why did you opt for that instead of Joanne fabric shears?
There's so many ways to cut your stuff off.
Yeah.
You didn't have to use garden shears.
Now, this one was, I spent it all on the hooker. This man was so proud he slept with hookers. He was complaining his wife wasn't giving him sex, so he bought it. Again, this is like pre-OnlyFans, not so outrageous for the world of the internet now, I would assume.
It kind of shows how like jaded we are today. We're kind of like, meh.
Yeah. Exactly. This one, I live in a box. A man decided he wanted to live in a cardboard box, but desperately trying to get his wife back. An unusual situation to go through in order to get one's wife back, but certainly one that was interesting enough for TV.
I've never known anybody to successfully use a cardboard box to get their wife back, especially living in it. But hey, there might be somebody out there that it worked. Somebody have a really good box.
Yeah. Okay, well, this one, I definitely think you're going to know people. This episode was called Nice Guys Need Not Apply. In that episode, you meet a man who wanted to propose to his girlfriend, but there's one problem, that he was too nice.
Too nice to propose?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Just nervous and like don't want to upset anybody, and you know.
He didn't want to shake things up a little bit, so he didn't even want to propose. So did the show result in him proposing, or was he too nice about it?
I think he was probably too nice about it. But here's the thing. We live in a current media climate where everyone posts their gender reveals and their proposals. So you would assume that once you got the ring, you're so confident, it's no big deal, and you're going to have a big moment because you want to go viral. There are people who are actually terrified of that big milestone.
Yeah, and then again, let's zoom out here. We're too nice to ask for a wedding, but not too nice to bring you on Jerry Springer to talk about a wedding. You know,
good point. Must have been somebody from the Jerry Springer triangle.
Must have been.
Pregnant by the same teen dad. Alicia was pregnant by her boyfriend, Nate. The only problem was she was not the only one. I feel like this stands in the test of teen mom time.
This stands in the test of teen mom time. I feel like that may probably happen at my high school. So I'm not blinking again, like regular day in Mississippi.
Real girlfriend versus online girlfriend. Alexis confronted her man's online girlfriend, Dominique. This too, I mean, all right, girl, get in line. I feel like this happens to a lot of people.
You paved the trail for us. We're all going to be doing that pretty soon.
Now, the one difference was if Oprah Winfrey had done an episode of this topic, it would have been handled completely different. And to everyone's shock, there was a point at which Jerry Springer had surpassed Oprah in the ratings. And I think it was because what they began to do, especially in the case of a topic like this, was Oprah would start with the guests in the center of the stage on two very comfortable chairs. Jerry would allow guests to sort of walk in the back or the side of the stage and just walk over and rip someone's hair out.
Yeah, they encouraged it even. Like they were looking for the fight. They were hoping for the fight. Even like later you see that they like realized the fighting was what people wanted in the ratings. And then they started like really pushing people into uncomfortable situations.
Yeah, and by the way, Steve, the security guard, he got a spinoff after that. So people really kind of enjoyed the need of a bodyguard to keep one guest from the other.
I remember Steve being in headlines of tabloids and stuff. Even Steve was a character then. He was quite a celebrity.
My mama don't like you. Brittany confronted the mother of her boyfriend's mother who wouldn't stop meddling in their business. I think that's pretty typical, right?
That lines up. Lines up.
Now, this one is a doozy. I'm pregnant by my brother.
Yeah, wow. There was a lot of incestuous situations on the show, I felt like.
Very troubling.
The line. Even one made that guy quit. He quit after that.
Yeah, well, I can't blame him. That would be too much for me. Even if I made it through the first 2 days, I think that would have been my line in the sand. I think I'm out.
He did. He came back. He came back to the show 2 years later, but he opened up the hotel room door on a dad and a daughter, and it was embarrassing. And he was like, "That's enough. This is too far."
Yeah.
You'd feel pretty grody.
You sure would. Grody, great word.
The start of a new year is the perfect time to get organized, set goals, and prioritize what matters most. For me, a top priority is my financial wellness, which feels more important than ever. Thanks to Rocket Money, my goals feel achievable. They show me all of my subscriptions right in one place and help me easily cancel ones that I forgot I've been paying for. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you. They automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save. Then you can ask them to negotiate for you. They'll deal with customer service so you don't have to. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/Wondery today. That's rocketmoney.com/Wondery. rocketmoney.com/Wondery.
Turn protecting the planet into your career. Georgetown's 10-month interdisciplinary Master of Science in Environment and Sustainability Management program blends cutting-edge scientific knowledge with essential business principles, equipping you to address the world's most pressing environmental challenges. Learn to tackle today's most urgent environmental problems with a strategic, dual skill set that combines environmental science and business expertise. Ready to make a real impact? Georgetown's Master of Science in Environment and Sustainability Management empowers you to transform your passion for the environment into a meaningful, purpose-driven career. Explore the program at msb.georgetown.edu/ESM-podcast.
I married the wrong twin. Two twin sisters fight over the same man. That's another moment where you go, if we're fighting over this, like what has happened and where are our parents, and can they talk about why this happened?
How did we get here to fight about it is the question. Like, how did we get to this point?
I mean, what a loser to go out with twins. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know.
Maybe could have face blindness. Maybe you can't tell the difference. I don't know.
Well, what I think happened too is that there was a point at which people sort of grew tired of the insanity, the violence that happened on stage. And it made people kind of feel like they needed a warm, hot shower. In addition, you had a case on Sally Jesse Raphael that became a legal issue. And on Jerry Springer, Nancy Campbell Panitz appeared on an episode in May of 2000 where she thought she'd be reconciling with her former husband, Ralph. Unbeknownst to her, her ex-husband secretly remarried and planned to publicly end his relationship with her on the episode dubbed Secret Mistress Confronted. So her son, Jeffrey, said his mother and Ralph later reconciled, only to split again after the show. And then in July of 2000, a court awarded ownership of the home that she and Ralph had shared. A restraining order was also issued against him. An attorney for her said in the docuseries that she went to a bar following the ruling and saw himself on the TV as his episode played. After watching and drinking, he told someone at the bar that he would kill her, and she was found strangled and beaten to death later that evening.
He sure did do it. He sure did. And so the episode aired that day and he did that night. So they had gotten back together, broke up again between the time they taped the show and then when it aired. And when it aired, then he went and did that. I also think it's notable, this is off topic, but notable that his name was spelled R-A-L-F, not P-H.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of a Rolf like that. That was really something.
Yeah.
I thought. I was like, wow, we don't have any of those around here. But that was wild. That was really wild. And I think it really was a good... the show, the documentary, didn't really give us too deep of a dive into it. I feel like they could have gone a little bit further with it, But that story was kind of an expose on how they got the people to the show. She didn't think she was going on there to get in a fight. It would seem like she thought she was going to literally reconcile with that man. So I felt like that gave us a good look at what was going on behind the scenes and on the phone calls with the triangle of sadness.
It also makes me think about, there have been other shows on other networks where there's an element of, I have had a crush on this person, or I'm dating this person, and then the producers say, oh, but we brought in your ex-boyfriend, and that they have done all the work to find out all the people in that person's orbit, making calls. Did you ever hook up? Did you ever sleep? And it does make you realize how twisted these shows can be when they're trying to set up an episode, and that because the audience seemed to get so desensitized after so many of these shows, it was always like, well, what can we do that's bigger, better, better?
And they had done all the craziest stuff. So it'd have to be like the wildest thing. I agree. And with today, like with reality TV, obviously producers like are affecting how like the situation, right? But we try to pretend like they're not. Like we try to at least make it seem like Love Island isn't staged at all. And there's not any like producers swaying anybody in the house, because we want it to be very real. And then I feel like they weren't that concerned about it. So it seemed like they just kind of like went for it a little bit more.
Yeah. But there comes a time where the audience goes, you know what, I think we're done.
It was.
Yeah. I see that on like Real Housewives of Potomac right now. There's a woman named Leah, and her life is like a disaster. And I think the audience is like, I think this is a bit much.
Oh, yeah. It can get too far. It's not fun anymore when it's like, we've gone too far with this. Now I'm watching just a train wreck, but not a fun one.
Well, if a show like Jerry Springer were on right now, where it was people working out their issues, what kind of topics do you think would work in the year 2025?
I don't know. I don't think Jerry Springer could work today. I think it is like far too, topics are too hot. I think it's like too hot. You wouldn't be able to get opposing sides in the same room, even, much less just like even just hosting the concept of one of those debates that he had on there would get you canceled just for like thinking of having that episode, much less actually having the people in the episode, like the Ku Klux Klan and people fight it out on the stage. Like you would never get anywhere close to that today. It wouldn't happen. So I don't think any of that could happen today. A lot of it, at least not on like mainstream stuff.
I also think, issues like this are so painful for people. They don't want to see it dramatized in a form of entertainment. And
it almost was like we hadn't seen that many people. Like now we're just inundated, such a big word that I just used, inundated, with people's stories all the time, like stories all day long. We just consume stories. There wasn't as much access to stories then.
True.
So I feel like that is part of why it was so successful then. Now, like we are like barely blinking at some of these crazy topics now because we just hear crazy stories all the time. Then it was, how we're looking into other people's lives. I feel like there came a point where the scale tipped and we were like, okay, actually, people are gross.
Exactly.
Okay, it went too far. Okay.
Now, the most interesting point, I think, of the whole thing is that my takeaway was that Jerry Springer apologized for a show and said he thought that he ruined culture. Do you think he helped ruin culture?
Well, it just is like, it depends on how much responsibility we place on his shoulders. I can see him sort of being more of a cog in the machine than like the machine itself. Like it started out not as like a trash TV show. It started out a little more serious and people just didn't like it. So he was doing what he had to do to make the ratings go up because it was like his job or whatever. So I see how it got there. I don't feel like Jerry Springer set out to make a trash TV show. I feel like he just ended up with the trash TV show, but could choose to continue to go on with it for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, there we go. You can watch it now on Netflix. Like I said, if you want to go back in time and think about the 90s, you are going to want to watch this. Where can people follow you and what do you have going on?
Well, they can follow me on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook as Landon Talks, on YouTube as Landon Talks a lot, and then on podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, I have Landon Talks with Kate. It just came out and we're having a really good time. Thanks to you. All this is all Kate Casey's fault. Landon Talks with Kate. And then you can find me live in person doing stand-up all across the country. I'm going to be in Dania Beach, Florida, which is like between Fort Lauderdale and Miami this week. I had to look that up. And then I'll be at Zany's in Nashville later this month for Netflix, for Netflix is a Joke. So that'll be really exciting. We'll see what happens with that.
Now, think about that for a second. You used to be a teacher, and now look what you've done in what, I'm going to say a year and a half?
A year and a half, 2 years almost. I know, it's wild. I think about it. The first time that I talked to you on the internet, my phone died halfway through and I was like running from place to place and was just like a total mess. And now here I am in a podcast studio. I do not take it for granted at all.
And tell everybody what they can expect from the podcast.
It's a conversational style podcast. It's real fun. I just want to learn stuff. Like I love learning stuff. I love talking about new things and talking with new people and things. So that's what it is. We're just going to learn things every day with us. It releases once a week right now. And it's with Kate too. So she is the brains behind everything that I do. Now we're pulling her in front of the microphone, at least, maybe not the camera, but the microphone at least. And we have a good time.
Well, I'm so proud that you finally did it because
did it.
I think everyone's going to really love this. I am so excited for you.
I'm excited too, and I'm really grateful for you. Very much grateful.
The amazing Kate Casey.
I want to thank my great guest, Landon, and remind you to click subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and join the Facebook group Reality Life with Kate Casey. Make sure that you check out my must-watch list by going to katecasey.substack.com. Bonus episodes on my Patreon by going to patreon.com/Kate Casey. And please follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at @KateCaseyCA, TikTok, it's Kate Casey, and Twitter and Threads and Blue Sky at Kate Casey. Check back tomorrow for an all-new episode that you must not miss.
Hello, ladies and gerbs, boys and girls. The Grinch is back again to ruin your Christmas season with Tis the Grinch Holiday Podcast. After last year, he's learned a thing or two about hosting, and he's ready to rant against Christmas cheer and roast his celebrity guests like chestnuts on an open fire. You can listen with the whole family as guest stars like John Hamm, Brittany Broski, and Danny DeVito try to persuade the mean old Grinch that there's a lot to love about the insufferable holiday season. But that's not all. Somebody stole all the children of Whoville's letters to Santa, and everybody thinks the Grinch is responsible. It's a real Whoville whodunit. Can Cindy Lou and Max help clear the Grinch's name? Grab your hot cocoa and cozy slippers to find out. Follow Tis the Grinch Holiday Podcast on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. Unlock weekly Christmas mystery bonus content and listen to every episode ad-free by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts.